This guy was accidentally shot in the eye instead of a zombie. Hello all. This is Jacobson and this is a brief retelling of the 9th and 10th episodes of the 6th season of the zombie series The Walking Dead. You can see the previous episodes at the links in the video description. Once this video gets 200 likes, I will release the next installment. Enjoy watching it.
When Daryl, Abraham and Sasha return to Alexandria in a fuel tanker, they are stopped by a group of armed men on motorcycles. The gang leader informs the trio that their weapons and truck now belong to a man named Nigan. He orders one of the men to take Daryl to the back of the truck and inspect his cargo, while Sasha and Abraham stay behind. After some conversation between Abraham and Sasha and the gang leader, the latter threatens to shoot them both. Suddenly the whole group of bikers explodes. Daryl comes out from behind the truck, holding the RPG that Abraham found. The biker who accompanied him is lying dead on the ground. "What assholes," Daryl says. In Alexandria, walkers swarm the streets. Rick's group, still covered in the guts of walkers, heads towards the armory. Rick announces a plan to drive the walkers away from Alexandria with the help of cars from the quarry. Gabriel suggests that Judith and he stay safe in the church while the others move on. Jesse tries to send Sam with Gabriel, but Sam refuses to leave her. At the townhouse, Tara insists that they save Dennis from Owen. Rosita points out that they don't have enough weapons to fight the walkers outside. Carol borrows a gun from Rosita to comb the house. On the street, Owen holds Dennis at gunpoint while they hide from walkers. Meanwhile, Glenn and Nay are searching the church for supplies to rescue Maggie from the observation tower. From their hiding place, Owen and Denise watch walkers walking down the street. He tells Denise that they will run to the observation tower as soon as there is a gap in the pack. Glenn orders Neat to stay at the church while he rescues Maggie, but Neat also refuses. They find a gun in a drawer near the altar and a pile of cloth that can be tied together to help Maggie get off the platform. While Rick's group is calmly walking through the herd, Sam notices a converted boy. He panics and stops in place. Jesse begs him to move on, but he doesn't move. Walkers attack and tear Sam apart. Jesse goes into shock at the sight of her son being eaten alive, and does nothing to prevent the walkers from devouring her. While the walkers devour her, Jesse's hand remains firmly locked with Carl's. Desperate to free his son, Rick cuts off Jesse's hand with an axe. Amid the horror, Ron picks up the gun Jesse threw and aims at Rick. Before he can pull the trigger, Michonne's sword pierces his chest and the gun goes off. When she removes the sword, Ron falls to the ground and is instantly overwhelmed by walkers. "Dad weak?" Carl says. Rick watches in horror as his son, who was shot through the eye, falls to the road. He picks up Carl and runs through the herd while Michonne clears the way with her katana. Owen notices a gap in the herd and runs with Denise to the tower. He protects Denise when she is attacked by walkers, but at the same time his hand is bitten through. Denise urges him to go with her to the infirmary so that she can save his life by amputating a limb. At the townhouse, Carol lashes out at Morgan for being capable and endangering Alexandria. "I should have killed you," she tells him. Morgan replies that she can't and leaves. Denise and Owen take refuge in the house, where she ties a belt on his arm. She notes that he saved her, indicating that maybe he really has changed. Denise and Owen run outside towards the infirmary. Carol sees them from the townhouse balcony and shoots Owen in the chest. "Run!" he calls Denise. Denise gets to the infirmary where Heath, Spencer and Aaron are hiding. Rick arrives with Carl and puts him on a gurney. Denise begins to treat Carl's wound. Rick, still shaken, goes outside with an axe and starts killing. Michonne, Heath, Aaron and Spencer run outside to help Rick fight the walkers. Residents of Alexandria watch from their homes as Rick and the others fight the walkers. Many residents go outside and join the fight. "We can beat them," Rick shouts. In the church, Gabriel watches the battle while Anna, Tobin, Bob and several other residents are waiting for the horde. He hands Judith over to Annie and picks up a machete and goes into battle, followed by Tobin. Carol tells the group at the townhouse that Rick has decided to fight. Everyone, including Eugene, joins the fight. Morgan finds Owen, who has now turned into a walker. "I'm sorry," Morgan says, and then punches Owen's head with his staff. And Nitz saves Maggie while Glenn distracts the walkers from the tower. Maggie cries as the walkers surround Glenn. Abraham and Sasha suddenly appear, and standing on top of the tanker truck, they manage to shoot the walkers and save Glenn. Safe inside the truck, Glenn suggests Daryl use the car to get the walkers away, but Daryl suggests an alternative plan. As the fight intensifies, Daryl drains fuel from the truck into a pond in downtown Alexandria and then launches the RPG water. A fireball flies into the sky, distracting walkers. Rick's group and all the Alexandrians continue to kill while the walkers flock to the fire and burn in flames, burying themselves in the lake. The next morning, the streets are littered with the corpses of walkers. The group is standing quietly near the infirmary. Michonne holds Judith inside while Dennis stitches Daryl's back. Carl is lying unconscious in bed with Rick next to him. Rick tells Carl that he underestimated the Alexandrians, and vows to rebuild the community as Diana planned. Rick adds that for the first time since waking up at King County Hospital, he feels real hope for the future. When Rick gets dressed to go get supplies, Michonne asks him to bring toothpaste. They talk to Carl, who now wears an eye patch, but seems to have recovered from the shot. In the 2 months since the herd of walkers broke into Alexandria, the city has grown. A new wall has been built, and residents can see how the old wall is being dismantled. Daryl searches for Denise to look through the list of necessary products, and asks why she needs orange soda. Denise explains her plan to surprise Tara, who is leaving with Heath for 2 weeks. Eugene opens the gate for Rick and Daryl as they hit the road. He gives them a map of the agricultural shops in the area and offers to find sorghum, criminally undervalued grain that can help replenish their meager food supplies. In the car, Rick predicts that on this day they will finally find food and new people. Daryl notices that they haven't met anyone in weeks. Back in Alexandria, Michonne stands guard at the top of the wall and sees Spencer walking into the woods with a shovel, and she follows him. Maggie finds Neat alone and encourages her to take part in the restoration of Alexandria. She also tells Neat that she will be there if she wants to talk. Rick and Daryl spot a sorghum shed and find a truck inside. They open the truck and discover a large warehouse of supplies. Rick suggests they take the truck and come back for the car later. On the way to Alexandria, Rick and Daryl stop at a gas station to look for something. Daryl finds an overturned vending machine, which they chain to the truck to flip it over. At this moment, a masked man runs up to them and crashes into Rick, which forces Rick and Daryl to point a gun at him. The attacker introduces himself as Paul Rovey, although his friends call him Jesus, and tells Rick and Daryl that he was just running away from walkers. Rick asks him how many walkers he has killed, a test for the new members of the group, but Daryl interrupts him. Eventually, they decide to let Jesus go. Rick notices that despite the fact that he claims that he does not have a camp, this man is unusually neat and tidy. He discusses with Daryl whether they should follow him, but they are interrupted by the sound of gunshots behind a gas station. They investigate and find firecrackers in a trash can. Realizing it was a trick, they run back just in time to see Jesus drive away in a truck, dragging a vending machine behind him. Meanwhile, in the woods, Spencer is trying to pull a walker out of a nearby bush. Michonne appears and kills the walker, and then asks why Spencer is in the woods. He explains that he walks after his shift and goes alone again. Michonne insists on going with him, explaining that his mother, Diana, told her to figure out what she wants in life, but for now she just wants to find out why he is wandering through the woods with a shovel. Elsewhere in the woods, Carl and Nit are walking together, and Nit wonders out loud why they keep going there. Because we are children, they do that, Carl replies. We are not children, mutters back and Nit. Back on the road, Rick and Daryl run after the truck and find a vending machine discarded in the middle of the road. Daryl breaks the window and stuffs an orange soda for Dennis and some snacks into the bag. Using Dennis as an example, Rick suggests that the arrival of more people in Alexandria could be beneficial to society. Daryl asks Rick if he means people like Jesus. No, not this guy, an angry Rick declares, and they continue to run. When Carl and Annette are reading in the woods, they hear a noise. Annette hides, and Carl pulls out a gun. However, they calm down when Carl realizes that it's Spencer and Michonne. After a while, Nit declares that he no longer wants to go out into the woods. All right, Carl says and gathers his things. As they walk back through the woods, Carl and Nit see a walker in the distance. Despite Nit's protests, Carl tries to pull him to her and prevents her from killing him. You wouldn't understand, he says, and tells her to go home. Meanwhile, Rick and Daryl catch up with Jesus and hold him at gunpoint. Rick ties Jesus up, assuring him that the knots are loose enough for him to get out. Then Rick and Daryl leave in a truck. As they drive through the field, Rick and Daryl hear a sudden noise and realize that Jesus is on the roof of the truck. Rick screams to a halt, and Jesus falls to the ground. Daryl runs after Jesus, and Rick kills walkers nearby. Both Jesus and Daryl are fighting inside the truck, and Jesus accidentally switches it to neutral gear, causing the truck to roll into a pond and drown. Daryl reluctantly agrees not to abandon Jesus, who was unconscious, after Rick points out that Jesus saved Daryl from walkers. Michonne and Spencer catch a glimpse of Carl, who rushes away, leaving a walker behind. Spencer pulls out a knife, and Michonne recognizes the walker as Diana. Michonne holds Diana down while Spencer, with tears in his eyes, pierces her head. He explains that this is the reason he walks in the woods. After that, Spencer digs a grave and mourns the loss of his entire family. Michonne assures him that he still has a family with his friends in Alexandria. Later, Daryl guards an unconscious Jesus in the back seat while Rick drives them back to Alexandria. At home, Michonne reproaches Carl for risking his life by leading Diana. Carl explains that he had to do it, Spencer had to be the one to kill her. It must be someone who loved her, he says. I would do it for you. Michonne hugs him and replies, me too. Soon a pickup truck appears near Alexandria and lingers for a few seconds. When they arrive in Alexandria, Daryl tells Rick that he was right when he once suggested that they stop attracting new people to the community. Rick disagrees, he believes Daryl was right in the first place. Rick and Daryl bring Jesus to the infirmary so that Danny can examine him. Later, in the basement of the townhouse, Daryl and Rick leave water and a note next to the unconscious body of Jesus. Returning home, Rick tiredly sinks down on the sofa, where Michonne joins him. He tells her that Daryl is guarding the man they brought. He hands her mints from the vending machine instead of the toothpaste she wanted. When they laugh together, their fingers lock and they kiss. Later, Rick and Michonne lie naked in bed and sleep. Jesus walks into the room and tells Rick to wake up. When Rick and Michonne jump up and grab their guns, Jesus says, "We need to talk."